Welcome out to Time with Uncle Sam. It has been 2 years since the 2024 primaries, and we last were doing interviews with candidates. And so, if you've never watched one of these podcasts before, one of my frustrations, Jason, by the way, Jason Wyatt running for Dearborn County Sheriff.
Yes.
One of my frustrations over the years being involved in county government from a voter standpoint is typically I know who, when I go to the polls, I know who I'm voting for president or maybe the governor or Congress, maybe a state legislative office. But typically, other than seeing signs out and about, let's face it, we all have full lives. We got kids, family, other things that are going on. And unless you know somebody personally who's running for a specific office, you just show up at the poll, and half the times I'm reading off positions in office, whether it was a county trustee or a township trustee or a delegate or a precinct committeeman or somebody on some board that you're going, I didn't even know I'm voting for these people. And then you're just trying to find a name that you recognize. And it's really hard for positions that don't pay extremely well, like a council spot or a township trustee or some other things, to actually run a campaign. So you just get somebody who signs up, and unless you know the person, you don't know who's good or who's not good, and you don't have a time to go meet everybody. And if you're running like yourself, if there's 5,000 voters who turn out, you don't really have time to go knock 5,000 doors and hope everybody's home and you can have a conversation with everyone.
Correct.
And so one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing these, and we've done a couple years ago, and I want to do them again this primary for everybody who's interested in, is 5,000 people could take an hour and have a living room conversation, coffee table conversation with you without you having to have 5,000 conversations,
Right.
And you can still be a dad and a grandpa and a husband and live life, and it's not as daunting of a task. So I got a list of questions here that I've come up with, some that were sent to me from other people. We'll just have two guys talking. Fire's going. Hopefully it doesn't roast us out here. And
It feels good, though.
And we'll go from there. So one of the first questions that I want to ask is, what's your background? Starting with parents, born and raised, childhood, upbringing, and then we'll get into adulthood, career, things you've done, and go from there.
Sounds good.
Were you born locally then?
I was born and raised right here in Dearborn County,
Okay.
right in Lawrenceburg.
What did your parents do?
So my dad worked at I&M, the
Okay.
power plant, and for, I don't know, 35-ish years or so, retired from there.
Okay.
And then my mom, she was a registered nurse, worked over at Children's Hospital in the newborn intensive care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a special place.
It takes a special person.
Yeah, it does.
Sure does.
So you were born and raised here then?
Correct.
Okay. What was growing up, going to high school? Where were you at?
So I went to Lawrenceburg,
Okay.
graduated from Lawrenceburg High School. And then after graduation, I started college and then figured out college wasn't for me.
Same.
and then joined the military.
Okay.
So
What growing up, were you big into sports, outdoors activities?
I did.
What kind of stuff did you do?
Track, cross country. I think I wrestled one year, but I was a small little kid back then. I mean, just a tiny little thing.
Okay.
And I grew after high school.
That's how my mom comes from a dairy farming family out in Illinois, and 5 brothers, and I think everybody went off to college at like 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And now I see all my uncles, and they're all like 6 foot something, and they didn't grow till after they graduated college. So, have you ever run for office before, and if so, when?
I have not. Never ran for any office before.
Okay, so so you're in your late 40s, early 50s now?
51.
51. All right, you're over the half century barrier. So from graduation, joining the military, getting out of high school, did you go straight in the military? What's your career path after graduation of high school?
So joined the military in 94.
Okay.
Active duty, stationed out at Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay.
At Washington State. Did military corrections out there.
Okay.
Learned a lot. I think one of the biggest things I learned doing military corrections is the ability to talk to people. just
What
your interpersonal communication skills.
when you say military corrections, what's the day-to-day life operate? How long were you military corrections?
5 years.
Okay, so what's an average week in the life of Jason Wyatt when he's military corrections officer?
So I mean, depending on the position that I was scheduled to work that day, it could have been anything from just a normal, like, jail officer, so
Okay.
working a cell, dealing directly with inmates, or it could have been where I was the guard commander, where I was in charge of all the guard force
Okay.
and just ensuring the day-to-day operations of that facility were met.
So if you're doing like, are you working a facility of 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000
I
people?
think we housed roughly around 500 people.
Okay.
I think was our max that we could house there.
Okay.
And they were all minimum medium custody inmates. We had very few like max custody inmates because in the military, at a regional correctional facility, which is what I worked at, we could only house up to 5 years. Anything after that, they went to Fort Leavenworth.
Okay. So most of the people who were in there, what were they in there for?
A lot of drugs.
Really?
And then in the military, you're bound by different laws, right?
Right.
You have your constitutional laws, and then you
Right.
have the Uniform Code of Military Justice, right,
Okay.
which is like military laws. And so, I mean, somebody could be in there for insubordination, or they could be in there for writing a bad check. It just depends.
Okay. What like 50% of it drug related?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of it was drug related, and then I mean
And that was in the 90s.
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
Has it always been a big issue, or
I think it is a big issue in the military.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So you did that from your early 20s then? It was one of the
correct.
Okay. Where'd you go after that?
So in '99, I got off of active duty and jumped right into the reserves, the Army Reserves. Moved back here to Dearborn County.
Okay.
Joined a unit out of Cincinnati, the 377 Military Police Company,
Okay.
and then while with them, I reclassed over to just military police.
Okay.
So it's two separate jobs.
Right.
So they have two different schools for it. So I just switched over to that school and went through that school.
Okay. Where'd you go after that?
Military wise, stayed with them for a while and deployed with them to Afghanistan in 02 and 02 to 03.
Okay.
And in Afghanistan, we did detainee operations.
Okay. But you've got some good stories from over there.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting.
So you went over there in the early 2000s then?
02, 2002, yeah, to 2003.
What was life like over there?
I mean, it's
All military police stuff, or are you doing
that was all military corrections.
Military
so
corrections,
yeah,
okay.
detainee operations. And then while I was over there, I did do some law and order on post,
okay?
which wasn't anything major. A lot of times it was just responding to like disturbances
Okay.
at the gates from the locals, and
Okay.
nothing crazy there. Came back home, and then in 05, 06, deployed to Iraq.
Okay.
Again, on a military police job, but we did protective services
Okay.
for the theater command sergeant major and the theater general, which was an absolutely amazing job. I was the person in charge of the theater command sergeant major's team, and we 3-vehicle convoy drove all over that entire country.
How many miles did you think you logged in that time frame?
My goodness, I don't even know. The crazy thing is we had a helicopter, but the sergeant major's like, man, we ain't use that. Troops are on the ground. That's where we're going to be. And so off we went in our little 3 vehicles driving all over the country.
Wow. All right. So what's your that's 07 that ended?
06.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your transition into law enforcement back here in the States?
So transition into law enforcement. When I got back in 99, when I got off of active duty, came back to this area, ended up getting a job as with Hidden Valley.
Okay.
They had their own deputy program there at that point in time, where you were kind of you were a reserve for Dearborn County, is where you got your powers from, but you worked primarily in Hidden Valley and
Okay.
patrolling that area.
That was just like a way people, young officers wanting to get on the department, just kind of started there.
It's a great start, and like I would always tell people that it's a great training ground. Yeah, it's not that there's huge crime up there. It's not
It's a
that there
pretty
is.
quiet community.
Yeah, it's a pretty quiet community. So it's a great place to learn.
Right.
And so yeah, I worked there for year and a half, and then 2001 got hired on at the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Full time as a patrol deputy.
So were you doing that in like parallel career paths with that and the military then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And
So-
ran my military career out for a total of 28 years.
Okay.
And then ran my law enforcement career 22 years with the sheriff's department, and then retired.
Okay. Gotcha. So 07 was the last time you were deployed then with the military?
So 06 was.
06.
And then,
You
yeah,
were back
I
in
did
07?
some more mobilizations with the military. 2007 to 2010, so there for about a 3-year span. I took a leave of absence from the sheriff's department
Okay.
and went and taught. I was out in California, went and taught military police
The
school.
forbidden state from
Yeah,
Indiana.
I know.
California has some nice areas, and if you get away from the cities, there's actually some pretty
It was
conservative people out there, but-
absolutely beautiful
It's like-
there where we were.
For Hoosiers, California is like a borderline cuss word. You don't really say that.
But yeah, we taught military police school and military corrections. So taught those, and I traveled back and forth between there and Fort Knox and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay.
Just
How many students did you train over those years, do you think?
thousands.
There's that many people going through training?
Yeah. So we taught on the reserve.
How big is, like, so I don't know the answer to this question, but you talk about like military police. Is military police, you have different, I mean, you got different branches of the military. Do they all have their own military police, or is
Yes.
okay. So between all the different branches, how many military police are there?
A lot. I mean, it's one of the. I'll say it's smaller
So
for
is
as
it like
a
one,
job.
is it one
is
MP
concerned.
per 100?
I couldn't tell you.
You don't know?
No, I couldn't.
But there's that many people going through.
There's a lot. So,
MP
but
training.
I think it's not just active duty. We were teaching reserve and National Guard.
Oh, okay.
Also.
Gotcha. All right. All right. So, so that's 07 time frame then?
2007, 2010.
Okay. When did you come back when were you back full time with the sheriff's department then?
2010.
2010.
Mhm.
Okay. And on. What was your career path from there? What'd you do? You came back working.
Came back just straight back to patrol and just continued on working, and then got promoted to sergeant on the patrol side of the house, and so I was a patrol supervisor.
Okay.
which was really nice.
How many sheriffs have you been under? 20 something years.
4.
4 sheriffs. All right.
Yes.
So you've seen different leadership styles,
Correct.
different perspectives, different personalities, different strengths, weaknesses, etc.
Yes.
What one of the questions people have, you think about different places in county government, whether it's council or commissioner or surveyor or treasurer, clerk, you get elected. There's a lot of different positions in county government that you get elected to. What role, coming from a law enforcement side, what role should the sheriff's department play in our daily lives? When you think coming from a deputy's perspective, somebody's worked at the department for 20 years.
You're talking about the actual sheriff. What role does he
Right.
play?
Yeah.
I
Most people, I mean, for me, I was not everything I think about. You don't speed, don't get in trouble, don't do drugs. You wave at a cop when you see him. If you
Right.
know him, you go to church. But other than that, like it's different than a commissioner role or a council role or something else. But county government touches our lives more than probably the state or federal government does, except for
Right.
how much tax money they take
Right,
from us.
right.
Then it's like the federal government, the state. But when it actually talks about services and you pay a tax and you get a service rendered, county government affects our life and touches our life more than these other levels do.
Right.
So what role does the sheriff's department or the sheriff specifically play in the lives of
Outside of the kind of keeper of law and order.
Right.
Um, I think I think the important thing that I think anybody that is running or has ran or is sheriff, right? I think the biggest thing they need to understand is that the sheriff works for the people, and they were elected by the people. So I mean, it's it's such an important role,
Right.
and that they listen to the people in the county, um, and it again, it kind of goes along with the model that I like in law enforcement with the community policing,
Right.
you know, um, and I don't know, I think it's very important to get back to where we're listening to the public more instead of us just going, this is how we're going to do it.
Okay. With it's just kind of a maybe doesn't necessarily affect from a sheriff's department side of things. Maybe it's a more holistic view at county government. But as a father, grandfather, etc., what are the top 3 things you want provided? I mean, you've got kids, grandkids growing up in the community. You grew up in the community. Your parents were in the community. 4 generations or whatever it is in Dearborn County.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want provided to the community from the sheriff's department to help ensure that this is a better place to live? I mean, this is a 78% Republican county. Back the blue all the way.
Right.
We saw a lot of the defund the police of 5-6 years ago. I think that's quieted down a little bit. Maybe people have realized how insane that is. But, if you were to be put in charge of the sheriff's department and you got kids and grandkids growing up in the county, what are some things that directly affect or maybe 20 years of policing that you see in the community looking forward to make Dearborn County a better place? What are some things that you think need to be addressed or be on the lookout for? Or, I don't know if I'm phrasing that question the right way.
I don't know. I mean, I want outstanding law enforcement, right? From the deputies, from the city police, I want people to look at them and go, hey, they're doing a great job. Instead of all the complaints and other things you hear about cops, right, in general. And because it only takes one cop doing the wrong thing,
Right.
that in turn makes everybody look bad.
Right.
So, I mean, I want it to where we're just solid. And then another thing is I truly want more programs for our jail, for the people that are incarcerated.
What kind of programs? There's a lot of things that people probably say. There's probably 2 ditches you can jump to.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about practical programs for people to get back on the right path, what are some of those that come to mind?
I mean, they already have some programs that are working great. There's
Okay.
there's a JCAP program. There's programs to help with mental health,
Okay.
and things along those lines. It's just sometimes those are not enough. We need to help people to be able to reintegrate into society.
Right.
If that's looking at some sort of learning a skill,
Like a trade school introducing?
like a trade school, right? I mean, because a lot of people, I'm not saying a lot, but people that sometimes are incarcerated, they have a hard time getting jobs once they get out because of that past record. But if we can give them a skill and have programs with partnerships throughout the county, to where we can help get jobs.
Okay. I was on the phone with somebody else from another county today, career in also deployed veteran, also been in law enforcement, and I'm going to be doing some podcasts for some other sheriff candidates here in Southeast Indiana. And so I had reached out to a couple different people I know that are in law enforcement, retired law enforcement, et cetera, and said, hey, everybody asks questions from our own perspective, and
Sure.
I have questions that come up, but I only have a limited perspective. And so I had reached out and I said, from a cop's perspective, if you're going to work under a sheriff and you're also a voter, what are some things that you would want asked of a sheriff candidate? And this was a couple responses that I had gotten, some questions. I'll throw these out here and we'll kind of tackle them one by one or all together, and we can go from there. But this was one comment that was sent to me. The sheriff's department and other departments, locally, federally, whatever, have faced significant attrition in recent years. This person is interested in your plan to retain current deputies and attract new hires. Specifically, they'd like to know your approach to addressing the following key areas: compensation, morale, training, and team building. Compensation, how do you plan to ensure the deputies receive competitive salaries and benefits?
So if it was up to me, law enforcement would be one of the highest paid jobs in the United States. It's that important, right? I mean, to me, how much is your safety worth?
I don't think you put a price on it.
So right.
I mean, obviously, I want fiscal responsibility with it. But
Exactly. But it's the same. I look at it the same as teachers. They're so important,
right.
right? But yet they're underpaid. Same thing with law enforcement. Important, but underpaid. Now, here in Dearborn County, our pay has increased, and we're catching up to where other departments in the area are at. And I think it's a great thing. But again, it's something that I will strive to do, is to increase, the compensation.
What are some other things other than compensation from a leadership perspective, but also somebody who's worked under, whether it's military, police, or you've worked in different environments with different leaders,
Right.
different people in authority? What are some other things that you talk about? Attrition rates and keeping good people. What are some other factors other than pay that go into keeping great team members?
Well, I think we're going to get to it when it talks to morale. I mean, I think morale is a huge thing in keeping people, employed with your department. And like we've discussed, and people will work for less pay if they have a great working environment.
Right.
And I mean, so that's part of my goal is to create a great working environment. But again, I do want increased pay.
Okay. Morale. Without measures, what measures will you implement to maintain and enhance the morale of your deputies in a practical way?
So I think, and I know from my perspective, right? Morale is one of those things. It's easily lost and hard gained.
Yeah,
right?
it's like momentum.
It truly is. But there's times where the smallest things can be morale boosters, right? And you're out working night shift, right? And then next thing you know, you hear the sheriff pop up on the radio, and calling on duty, and you're like, man, what's he doing out this time of the night? And he's just out to ride around, patrol, do whatever, right?
Do you plan on being a more engaged frontline sheriff?
I do. And I mean, I had, if I'm elected sheriff, myself, my command team will all be, I'm not saying, I can't say we'll always be out on the road.
Right.
I mean,
There's
I'd love to.
administrative stuff to the job.
Yeah, there's
too.
always administrative stuff. But I do want to be more of that working sheriff, to where I am out engaging with my deputies as well as the public. I think it's important for the sheriff to be out and about and even just stopping in, talking with business owners, talking to normal people as they're at the park or whatever, getting to know.
Okay. Last question here on that was team building. What initiatives will you undertake to foster a strong team spirit?
So-
Or maybe a better way to say that, because everybody teaches and leads from their past experience, whether they were good experiences or bad experiences. When you look back over your 20-year career, 25-year career with law enforcement and military, what were some of the best leaders that you served under that did that, and how did they do that? To initiate morale, camaraderie, team spirit.
So if we're talking like leadership styles, right? I'm a big proponent of a participative style of leadership, right? And I know different people respond to different styles of leadership, right? But I have found that if we were out and we had to fill a bunch of sandbags, right? And I say, hey man, go fill those sandbags. Well, you're going to go fill sandbags because you're told to do it, right?
Right.
But I don't know that you're going to work as hard, right? Now, if I get down there with you,
right,
and start filling some sandbags, like awesome. Or we go, hey, look, we're going to split everybody into 2 teams.
Let's see who can get the most done.
And yeah, we're going to make a game out of it, right? Because competition, right, breeds morale.
Right. Getting back to some personal questions here. If a genie showed up and you were granted one law you could change at a federal or state level that affects law enforcement, what would that be?
I honestly,
Or if there's 3 or
I
whatever.
know it's not even that. I don't know that I've ever particularly like thought about, like me personally, if I could change one law. So I don't.
Is there something you could, if there was one thing that you could change that affected how you did your job the last 20 years that would have helped you or hindered you? Or
I think, and not even, I don't even think it's at the state level. It's more support, right? From your own administration, right? And again, if I got support, I'm going to do my job better. Because I feel like somebody's always got my back.
right.
But yeah, I mean, like a particular law or I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I put
Okay.
a lot of thought into it.
Going back to more your personal side of life, one of the questions I like asking is, who is one of your greatest heroes in life and why? Whether that's a family member or a role model or a military training officer that really impacted you or something else, coach from growing up as a kid.
Yeah. So one of my biggest heroes, it was my uncle. His name was Larry. He contracted polio as a child, and they didn't expect him to live that long. Well, he did. I mean, he lived into his 40s, and so I got to know him, and
He lived local.
yeah, right down in Lawrenceburg.
Okay.
There'll be people that are watching this that know my family, and they know him because he was in an iron lung. If you know what an iron lung
No,
was.
I don't.
So it's a big, huge machine, right, that they lay and it helps them breathe. It just pressurizes and decompresses to help them so they can breathe. And so he ended up being basically a quadriplegic.
Wow.
I mean, he could move his right arm some, his left hand, and he could move his head. But outside of that, he just couldn't move.
So what about your uncle was what impacted you?
So
you grew up around him as a young
grew
kid?
up around him.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. The biggest takeaway from him was as we would look at it, that's a horrible situation to
Right.
be in life. But he had so much joy, and he didn't allow that to bother him. I mean, he didn't finish high school because of that, but he was just an intelligent person, and again, just moved on with life, never complained about his situation. And so I've took a lot from that, no matter where I'm at in my life and what adversities, right, that I'm being affected by. Just kind of put that stuff behind you and continue to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
What, there's a lot of people when they run for office, they talk the good talk. They maybe connect with issues that are affecting people. Every campaign is important for different reasons.
Sure.
It seems like every presidential election, you got each candidate saying, this is the most important election. And for one reason or another, you see their point. Whether you agree with them or not,
Right.
you at least understand what their point is. But the reason why it might be the most important election might be for a certain issue, And then people get elected and time goes by, and sometimes you feel like maybe I voted for somebody because I felt like they really connected with my issue, but 2-3 years later, you go, I would never vote for that person again.
Right.
Things change, situations change. One of the things that's a benefit to being in county government is you typically stay in an area. When you run for Congress, you go off to DC. Sometimes it's easy to forget the people back home when you're spending 50 weeks a year in Washington, or however much time you spend away. What is one way that you plan on staying connected with constituents if you get elected?
So, yeah, if I'm elected your sheriff, I'm going to set up, I would like to do town hall meetings, right? And do a thing like, hey, this month I'm going to be in Dillsboro, and we can go to Dillsboro. We can bring some statistics from that area, that we've seen or trends that we've seen, and inform the public in that little setting, and then also get their feedback of what's going on in their area,
Okay.
and then just any general questions they have, and
Okay.
and then maybe another couple months we'll be up in Bright, and I'm not saying it's going to be every month, but we're going to try to do them multiple times throughout the year.
Okay. Different places.
Yes.
So easily accessibility, community,
Correct.
relationships, conversations.
And then just another thing, in the military, one of the important things was when people had open door policies, right?
Right.
And as the sheriff working for the people, I feel you should have an open door policy.
Right.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what character traits make for a good sheriff? And if you weren't running for sheriff yourself, what would be some of the top deciding factors on who you would vote for? Not specifically in this election with naming somebody else or promoting yourself, but as you have worked under multiple sheriffs, and if it was a sheriff in a different county, what are some of the top 2 or 3? Maybe they're overlooked by the public. What are some of the top 2 or 3 most important character traits that you think a sheriff should have?
All right. So before we get to character traits,
All right.
I'm going to flip the script on you a little bit here.
All right.
Let's talk about leadership.
Okay.
Right? And what is leadership? All right. What's your definition of leadership? I'm going to ask the questions.
Example.
Being a good example.
Yeah, I've always heard business leadership, military leadership books you read, leadership is spelled EXAMPLE. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, whether it's selling a product, whether it's finding a cure for something because you're in medical field, whether it's running a law office, running a landscape crew, everything comes down to leadership. Now, at some point, if you're going to scale and be in charge of 50, 10, 100 people, you're not doing everything. But you still have to have the grit to be able to jump in anywhere in the organization at any time and show people you have to model what you want taught. Now, the higher up in leadership you go, you get into CEOs or whatever, you read leadership books, and they'll tell you, a lot of CEOs, if they're running a hospital or if they're running an engineering firm or they're running a legal team or, a shipping and receiving, warehousing business, whatever. A lot of those people, they only know about 10 or 15% of 10 or 15% technical skills as far as how to ship this product, how to run this machine, how to medically help this person, etc. But their ability to relate with people, understand that not everybody does things the way they do things, understanding personalities, they're what they call it, you got your IQ and your EQ, your emotional intelligence. Those things allow you to take 10 different people and get all those people at 100% efficiency, their 100% efficiency, because you understand people and you understand how to maximize productivity. But productivity is only maximized at the level that you can demonstrate yourself. And so everything comes back to example. That would be my answer for leadership. And that's,
Sure.
I think that's across the board.
So
I was not expecting that question.
I know,
but
right?
That's what immediately comes to mind.
So I'll
I've
tell
had
you
that drilled into me for the last 10 years by some exceptional
So
people.
speaking of things being drilled into you, right, in the military and military leadership and the schools and stuff that I've been through, right, the military has a definition for leadership. The definition for leadership is the process of influencing others to accomplish a mission by providing purpose, direction, and motivation.
I would agree with that definition.
Right. So
I don't think leadership has one specific definition, but I think that's another exceptional definition.
Correct. But I think a lot of times when we look at a definition for leadership, we jump into traits, right? Instead of what is an actual, the word leadership. Yeah.
The verb instead of the noun.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, again, process of influencing others to accomplish a mission by providing purpose, direction, and motivation.
Okay, so
And you can apply that to any business, right?
Right.
And
or organization. So let me flip this back.
Yeah.
If we're not talking about ideal character traits for a sheriff, as you look back over your career of military, different organizations you were in, getting transferred around, being with the top dog in Afghanistan, you were his personal detail for, whatever. who was one of the best leaders that you were around, and what are the top 2-3 characteristics of them that come to mind?
Sure. And yes, I mean, when I worked for the theater command sergeant major over in Iraq, outstanding leader. And because he gave you his mission, right? His purpose, gave you some direction, and then sent you on your way, right? And you knew why you were doing what you were doing. But he would then in turn make teaching moments out of things. Maybe you didn't do something exactly right. He didn't come down hard on you. He made a teaching moment out of it to make you. He was constantly pushing to make you a better person and a better leader.
How many years were you around him?
A year, 1 year.
A year?
Yeah.
I mean, like 40 hours a week plus with him?
Yeah. He had a huge effect on my life, and we still keep in contact to this day.
Okay.
But now to get into the leadership traits, right? And again, military, just ingrained in my brain, right? But I feel they're so important, good leadership traits. Courage, candor, competence, commitment, right? 4 amazing leadership traits. The 5th one is being, I just lost my mind.
What were those 4 again?
Courage, candor, competence, commitment. And then, consistency.
Consistency. Okay.
Man, terrible when you get old.
The hot is getting.
It is getting warm.
Getting a little warm here.
But consistency.
It's better than sub-zero temperatures outside,
Right.
Whatever the night is.
And I think consistency, not that the other 4 are not important, because I think they're very important, but the being consistent on top of that makes the other 4 absolutely amazing.
It's
Right?
the
Because
glue that binds things together.
Sure. So and quick story, working in a military prison, right? You have guards, and they're different guard styles, right? You might have the guard that always comes in, he's joking around. You might have the guard that comes in that's always firm and fair, and you might have a guard that comes in and acts a complete different way, right? And inmates learn the guards and their style. Now, if I'm that guy that always comes in and firm and fair, they know, hey, this is how I need to act when he's around. You got that guard that comes in and is always joking and kidding around with them. They feel they can do that. Well, then one day that guard that comes in that's always joking around with them comes in and decides he wants to be that hard guard, right? And then the things that they were doing before that they got away with, now they're not. It's confusing to the inmate.
Right. So
they don't know how to. That's why if the consistency in how you act, people understand how to react to it.
Okay, that's fair. What are the top 3 issues at the sheriff's department that you would either like to continue see, that things that are done exceptionally well, maybe something that stands out there, or something that you would like to change? Or maybe it's the top 1 or 2.
I think morale is a huge one. It's even when I can look back to my first years at the sheriff's department. The people you worked with, you absolutely knew them. They were that person that could give their life for you at any moment, right?
Right.
So you knew one another. It wasn't just I come to work and like, hey, how you doing? We talked outside of work. Our families hung out. We got to know each other. And I've seen over the years that I don't know if it's just cultural in general where
Right.
people like to disassociate from others. There's just not that bond anymore that there used to be in law enforcement. And
what are some ways that you would, let's blame it on cultural. People have a clock in, clock out mentality.
mm-hmm.
What are some ways from a leadership perspective that you would help cultivate an environment where that's something that, as a leader, you're fighting against internal environments,
Yeah.
external environments. You've got stuff in your department, or you've got things in the culture in general. You've got generational shifts. Gen X was in, maybe baby boomers were in hiring Gen X, now Gen Z, and maybe 4 years from now,
Right.
you're hiring Gen Alpha or Gen
Right.
Apathetic, as I like to call them. I'm like, there ain't nothing alpha until you prove you're an alpha. What are some practical ways, a common sense approach to helping cultivate that environment?
I think as a leader is getting involved in with your people. Not that I just know you as a deputy that's here working for me. It's I know your family. I've met your children. I know your kids. I know that and we start fostering this more family environment.
Is that what you mean as far as, like a once a month ride along with each guy, or twice a year you're doing it, working a shift with somebody? Or how do you real world solutions, where's the rubber meet the road? How do you actually cultivate that?
So I think it has to be cultivated at smaller levels,
Okay.
right? Also, so like each shift, right? That sergeant that can cultivate, but I think it all comes together and builds one big. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for.
So is it more a intentionality among your leadership
is.
that's
It
a
is.
constant on your mind every shift you show up? This is one of the things that is a part of our core leadership.
And I think it all comes from the true, honest caring of an individual, right?
Another question, I didn't write this down, but say you've got a department of 50 guys and you're the sheriff. How many other guys do you have that are leadership positions, or you got a group of 10 guys, you probably got 2 or 3 guys that are in there that are your leaders as far as relationally connecting with people, making sure you got chain of command stuff. Then you've got personal relationships that are there that kind of bind that team together. When you go to 50, you get a different number. You go to 100, you go to 1,000.
Sure.
At a team, let's say you got a department of 50 guys. How many people you got your chief deputy? How many other people in positions of leadership?
Patrol commander, and then you have, they currently have 4 patrol sergeants, and then
so you got 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, and then on the jail side, you got the jail commander, assistant jail commander. And then they have different sergeants throughout the jail that are in charge of certain sections.
So you got 8 to a dozen people that are a part of that leadership team.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question here. Sorry, I don't have these typed off.
No.
This time last year, did you ever think you'd be running for sheriff?
I did not.
So what? Have you never run for office before? You run for sheriff. What's happened in your life over the last year that got you to a place where? Because when I had called you and we had first talked, you'd said you weren't thinking sheriff, but you were already thinking of getting involved.
Correct.
Your time frame. Walk me through that journey. What's that look like? What changed in your life?
So, the wife and I had been talking, and we listened to different Christian conservative podcasts and things along those lines about how we need good conservative Christian people in politics, right? And so that got us thinking. And I've always thought about, I could jump into like a county council-ish or something along those lines. And then, I think timing hit right, and I was approached by people in the county, and they said, "Hey, we need somebody to run for sheriff." And I thought about it. My initial thought was, I don't know, and but we did. We prayed about it and everything, and we just looked at it as God brought this to us, and so why not? Let's give it a try.
All right.
And but in all that, right? You think, well, why would I kind of jump out of semi-retirement, easy job, to jump into something along the sheriff's department?
Right.
All my life, I've had jobs, right, which required duty, right? I felt my duty to serve my country. I felt duty to serve the county that I lived in. And this is just a continuation of that, where it's duty. It's a chance to serve the people. You know.
Okay. Everybody comes from different perspectives, and different experiences shape us, affect us in different ways. Coming from a military experience, what benefit is there as opposed to coming from a local municipality or a city or a metropolitan police department or state police? What are some benefits that come from your military experience that make you a unique candidate?
So, from my military experience, I think one of the most important things that are most important skills that I gained from the military was the ability to teach and train. And I think, not that as the sheriff you're the head trainer or anything like that of the
Right.
deputies. I know how important training is, and the continuation of training. I mean, everybody that's a deputy has been through the law enforcement academy, right? A lot of times after that, that's kind of it. I mean, we do our yearly mandated trainings that we have to do, but there's so much more out there in the world of law enforcement that we can just get extra training on. And it's even extra things like patrol techniques, or interpersonal communication skills, or I mean the most simple.
How many different types of classes have you taught? You said you're training military police and other things, other classes. You did that how many years?
Well, I mean, totally, I did it for 10 years, but I did it 3 years solid.
So in those 3 years, how many different are you teaching one class to 10 different guys, and you got 50 classes that you do 500 people, or is it 4 or 5 different classes? What kind of topics did you teach?
So, I mean, everything, just in the, say, law enforcement side, we're teaching patrol techniques. We're teaching, DUI detection. We're teaching investigating. We're teaching fingerprinting. We're teaching, I mean, you just think of the gamut of law enforcement, right? We taught all that.
So you had people coming in who were, I mean, they go through basic training and they pick their branch of government. Somebody go on, or branch of the military, and say, I'm going to the military police.
Mm-hmm.
And you get them fresh out of wherever, they don't know anything about it, and you're taking somebody from zero to graduation.
It could be, yes.
Could be, okay. Or other specialized training.
Or they've been in the military and they're reclassing or reclassification to a different job, right?
Okay.
And so we get them and train them.
Okay. So you spent a significant amount of time as a patrol deputy and a supervisor. How is your experience going to help manage your staff?
I think
did policing for you change? So you were 2010 to 2022 or something in there when you came back, 10 or 15 years there. Yeah. Did policing, even in rural Dearborn County, change a lot, or as far as issues that you dealt with, or things pretty much? Culture changed a lot in America, but as far as being an over-the-road deputy, did things change much or no?
I mean, your calls are still the same. It just depends on the frequency. I mean, during those times you had spikes in your overdoses and things along those lines, and they fluctuate up and down. But again, policing it's the same stuff, just in a different variety.
Okay.
But you're saying how does already have been a supervisor in the sheriff's department? How would it? What was the question you were asking?
How does that, coming from that perspective, because you got guys that come with a lot of administrative experience, you can't write that off. I mean, there's a lot of value in that. You got a lot of guys come from, and there's people who, you can be a great surgeon, you would not make a great hospital administrator.
Right.
You can be a great engineer, you shouldn't run an engineering firm. You can make a great lawyer, but you shouldn't be running a team of 50 lawyers.
Right.
But then you've got other people that, I've got a guy that recently came to work for me in my traditional business, and he's so good at his job that management doesn't want to promote him up because he's making them so much money in the field. And I think that happens no matter what environment that you're in, that people get looked over. And so there's you can get from ditch to ditch, but there's a middle of the road of balance that comes
Mhm.
there. And what are the top 2 or 3 things that, because you spent so much time on the road, what are some of the top 2 or 3 things that you picked up, or things that are second nature to you, that make you, or that you, if you were elected sheriff, would bring, what of that experience is coming to the deputies who work for you, get hired on at the department?
I think, let me think if I'm going to answer this the right way for you. I think coming through the ranks, right, of patrol to supervisor, and just organically growing in my skills and leadership styles and things along those lines. I think that there's so much to be said about that kind of learned leadership. I know
Okay.
some people say leaders are born, not made. I
We all develop along the way, though.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying is there's not too many people out there that are just like, this is me, leader, follow me kind of stuff, right?
Right.
People like seeing, oh, you've been through this, you understand, and you know what you're talking about, and we will follow you. So here's a for instance, in the military, I looked at, and when I was instructing, right, I'd been overseas, I had received a combat action badge, right, which means I was physically engaged or engaging enemy in combat, right? Um, so I got that badge, and when you're teaching and these students are looking at you, they see it and they go, he probably knows what he's talking about.
He's not teaching from a textbook.
Right.
He's teaching from experience.
He's teaching from experience. And to whereas I'd look and watch, and we had some fabulous instructors that had never been deployed overseas. Right. But yet they're trying to teach these students, hey, this is what the manual says. This is what this is how the Army says you're supposed to do it. Right.
Right.
And so they didn't have as much credit, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think character and merit are huge.
Okay. On the jail management side, are you planning on any significant changes in regard to staff, management, policies? And if you can touch on this, your time in the military, we've covered a lot of your experience as far as hands-on stuff, etc. Were you ever involved in a more managerial oversight, maybe rewriting rules or regulatory stuff or revamping programs that can you speak to that side? And is there anything that you would change about the current situation in Dearborn County?
So
Or things good the way they are?
The current jail situation, to be honest, I couldn't tell you exactly how it is or how it's running. Right. The best answer I can give is, if I'm elected and get in that position, I need to sit back and observe and watch and assess what's going on, and then see where changes need to be made. Maybe there's none, maybe there's a bunch. I don't know. Okay. And I mean, so that'd be how I could give you the most honest answer I can on that.
Okay.
But
going back to your military life, was there anything you did in the military as far as managerial side, changing things,
so in
regulatory?
Teaching military corrections, I did have an opportunity where I went to Fort Leonard Wood, which is the home of military police, and I helped rewrite the military corrections program, do updates and review of that curriculum, and we changed the way we did some things. And
when you say you by yourself, team of 100 people, what'd that look like?
Team of 10 people.
Okay.
That were handpicked from the instructor community,
okay,
both on the active duty and reserve side. So
how long of an assignment was that?
We spent a couple weeks there going over, and we had already had a revised curriculum that we were going through, and making pen and ink changes to, and then it was just you get together as one big meeting, and we all go through and hash things out and figure out the best way for the military to teach and train this stuff.
So my brother was went in law enforcement when I was like, I don't know, 14 or something. He's 8 years older than I was, and he was down in Florida. And he always told me, he's like, Sam, when you get your driver's license, I'm driving up to Indiana just so I can pull you over and write you a ticket, you know. And I idolized my older brother. He was just because of the age gap, and we didn't have, my mom's from Illinois, and so we'd only see my uncles, you know, every a 5-hour drive creates some distance. And my dad's got one sister, and my uncle on that side, they're out in Colorado, so we'd see them once every 5 years. And so a lot of the people that were, you know, like that uncle age range, just because of 8-year difference, it was, you know, we'd go see my uncles in Illinois, and that was fun. Or it was then my dad, and the next peer of men around me was my brother and his group of friends from basketball or church or work or wherever he was at. And so whenever he became a cop, I always loved hearing funny stories, goofy people he'd come in contact with. Is there any one story that your 20 years of policing that was just a funny that you can legally talk about?
Oh,
I asked somebody in a Metro Police Department who's been there a long time, high up in office there, and he said one time he came up to he's like, I was working a night shift somewhere, and we get this 911 call where there's this vehicle that drove like into he must have been going slow enough that they were going to a telephone pole, and those cables that come down, like the support cables, his car must have hit that and ramped all the way up. And so he's just sitting there, and the back tires are going in idle, and he was obviously drunk. And so this officer comes walking up, he tells me, he's like, good evening, sir, how are you? He's like, oh, hi, officer, how are you doing? He said, everything okay? He said, oh, yeah, everything's fine. He's like, obviously not everything's okay.
right.
He's like, sir, could you step out of the vehicle? And the guy goes, yeah, no problem. Steps out of the vehicle. And he's like not even thinking, but you got to get this guy out, whatever. And he goes, yeah, no problem. He goes, stepping out and drops down like 4 feet.
Oh.
And he goes, he just collapsed like a rag doll. He said, hindsight, it probably wasn't a smart thing to do because the vehicle could have shifted or something else. But I always love asking cops, you know, what's a funny story? If you're allowed to tell the funniest one. Some of that is not necessarily PG rated.
No,
you guys deal with a lot of stuff.
I think, and not to sound, I'm not going to tell an exact story, but I'm going to give for instance, some of the, I'm not going to say funniest things, but some of when there's stressful situations, right? And the way cops deal with stressful situation is humor.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's some absolutely just stupid things said in the moment, right? Because I understand, hey, look, this is how they deal with stress and things along those lines. And I think that's to the general public would be horrible, you know, really for them to hear or whatever. But we understand that, you know, everybody deals with grief and stress in different ways. And to caveat on that, it's going to lead me into where I think, and again, not a funny story, but the important thing in the sheriff's department is paying attention to our fellow deputies and brothers and sisters in law enforcement and where their mental health is at, right? Because it's one of those things, it's that kind of job to where you're like, you need to suck it up, you know, and continue on. And it's kind of like the military, you know, you're in horrible situations and you never get to deal with it. And they're just like, suck it up, drive on. We got this mission to do. Right.
But there's a breaking point for everyone too.
There is. And I've heard recently that there is some things going on in our local departments to where they're really starting to look into. In the military, we called it combat stress, right? And you had combat stress teams that were able to talk to and listen and hear. And the good thing is they have good mental health professionals that understand law enforcement. And that's the important thing, that they understand law enforcement. Because if I would go to a regular mental health, you know, that everybody else goes through and probably say some of the things I would say, they would probably think I'm just absolutely, you know, insane.
Right. It's a different world.
It's a complete different world, and so there does need to be people that knows how to deal with people that's been through those types of traumas.
Yeah. And you need leadership that understands
Yep.
when you need to say, hey, why don't you go have a conversation with somebody
Mhm.
or pull you aside.
Yep.
When you look
Sorry
back,
to take that off track.
that's all right.
but-
That's wherever it goes. When you have a chance to sit back and look back over your career, are there any days that come to, and maybe there's not one, but are there any situations or days where you came home, you took the badge off and you felt like, this is what I signed up for. Today was a good day. Were you able to help somebody or stop evil, or is there any one specific instance that comes to mind? Or
No, I think there's a bunch of instances that come, that kind of come to mind. But the general story in all of it is, it's our job in law enforcement. It's the job's not about taking people to jail, right? That's a small portion of the job. The job is about truly helping people out, right? And if that's you're fixing a problem in their time of need, right? Even if it's as simple as they have a flat tire on the side of the road, right? People are so grateful that you just pulled up and changed their tire.
Right.
It's not my job to change tire. I'm not a mechanic, right?
Right.
But I can help out. And in helping them out, it's saving them money. They're not having to call a tow truck. They're having somebody come do it.
I remember our way home from church, our minivan when I was a kid, that had happened and blew a tire, and there was a cop pulled up, and I don't even think he was outside of his area of duty. He was driving home, saw somebody pulled over. I think he was clocked out, spun around, threw his lights on, and he and my dad helped change the tire.
Yeah.
Those lug nuts never want to seem to come off,
Right.
when you run a flat. So, are there any other topics that we didn't cover, or anything else that you want to share? Or?
So
We were gonna talk about at the end here. You got metro policing, you got inner city, you got country, you got rural. We're in more of a rural county. When you think of, when we talk about the world, when I say the word rural policing or community policing, what does that mean for this county, and how is that different from, say, a county 2 or 3 counties west of us, or 1 or 2 over in Cincinnati?
I mean, you can use a community policing model anywhere, right? Not just rural. You could do it in city. It's a different.
What does
amount
community policing even mean? Like, it's
So-
a term that I hear thrown out, but
Right.
I don't have a law
It's one of them
enforcement
great
background.
catchphrases that just sounds good, right?
So it's just PR.
No. Community policing is actually, it's the process of getting your law enforcement involved with the community, right?
Not just in traffic
not
stops or
just-
take somebody to jail.
Yeah, not just not just in that negative light of taking people to jail or whatever, right? We're trying to. You're assigned to a certain area as patrol, and in that area, you need to be getting to know your business owners, right? You need to stop and talk to people as they're playing in the local parks. Some little girl's got a lemonade stand. Stop and buy a lemonade, and just being involved in that public to where they getting to know you, and they
non-confrontational.
and
situation.
non-confrontational, right? How many people in today's world just look at cops and go, I don't like cops.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, the acts of a few affect all. And so cops get a bad rap. So if we're
I
out
think
there.
CNN had something to do with that.
Well, yeah,
Gotta love the media, legacy
fake
media.
news. But when you're just out there and you're among the people and you're actually talking and listening to,
Sure.
They help you out, in your job. So they know, what's going on in their communities, and they're going to be more apt to share that information with you.
Cool.
And so there's a give and take, we're helping them, they're helping us.
Yeah.
And
Switching back to the personal side, we talked professional life, etc. What are some of your hobbies that you enjoy doing when you're not clocked in, when you're not doing military stuff or whatever? What are some of your hobbies?
So my newest hobby is called overlanding.
Okay.
You know, for those of you who don't know that, it's basically just driving like dirt trails in the wood in your whatever vehicle you have, you know, whether it's a built out vehicle or just whatever, right? I have a rooftop tent on my truck. We go out. Kind of like if you didn't know what gourmet or what overlanding was and you watched an overlanding video, you would say it's really just gourmet cooking in the middle of the woods. Because that's all they do. They go to remote spots in the woods and then they make these fabulous meals on camp stoves, you know. But it's just absolutely relaxing, getting out in nature and just enjoying the company of the people you're with. To be honest, this weekend we're going down towards like Beattyville, Kentucky, and we're going to be out on the trails all weekend, even if it's supposed to be snowing. And
More to the adventure.
it's so much fun. It's just, you know, getting in touch with nature.
What is so as we wrap this up? Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
If people have more questions, what's a great way to get in contact with you?
The easiest way to get in contact with me is on my Facebook page, Jason Wyatt for Dearborn County Sheriff, and or on there I also put my phone number. And if you feel like reaching out to me via phone number or text, it's 812-584-4527, and I'm available at any time.
Phone calls, texts,
Yep.
whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Great. Well, thanks for making time for this.
Yeah.
Glad the fire didn't roast us out too much.
It's getting warm.
It is getting warm. We'll wrap it up for now and hope we can do this conversation. So
Thank you.
thanks so much.